Hey everybody, welcome to Example of Play. In this video, I'm going to give you a little crash course on Broken Arrow. Going to go over how to get into a game, how to get a match started, how to understand what you're doing in multiplayer, what the objectives are, and what the UI means. And then we'll talk about some of the different unit types, just so you have a good understanding of the mechanics of the different units. We're not going to go in depth on like strategies for building your army composition or how to be a pro. This is really aimed at getting you started and into the game, because the game does have a tutorial mission for the single player campaign, but it kind of leaves a lot of things unexplained and assumes you kind of have some game knowledge. So I'm gonna help trying to fill in those gaps and get you off to a good start. So let's go ahead and get going. So whenever you fire up the game, you'll be here on the main menu. Over here you can see if the servers are up, how many people are playing, quite a few right now. You can see any updates, any patch notes or anything like that there. Your stats up here, if you've played some matches, you can click on that to see how you've done, any awards you've won. I've only played a couple matches, so but 2 wins so far, so that's pretty good. Over here, you can either hit quick match to go straight into a multiplayer match, or you can hit campaign to play the single player campaign. You can hit play, and that gives you some more options. Scenarios are some kind of what they say, some standalone scenarios that you can play. Those do allow you to be played in multiplayer with other people too, if you want to, or solo. And then multiplayer, it takes you to the lobby where you can pick multiplayer matches or create your own lobby for up to 5 versus 5. Or you can do the quick match here will get you straight in versus going to the server browser here. And then skirmish is against AI opponents. One thing that's kind of not obvious here is that if you want to play against the AI, you actually have to play with other players. You can't go one versus the AI. You have to have at least 3 human players on your team, and then you can play up to 5 AI opponents. Hopefully they'll add where you can have AI teammates to help you if you want to play against the AI and not have other humans in, or if you want to just go 1v however many AI. Hopefully they get that changed, because it's a little odd that you have to have at least 3 human players on your team and you can't have AI teammates. Anyway, that's not immediately obvious if you just jump into it there. If you click on Arsenal, you can see the Armory, where it lists out all the different units in the game, or the Army Builder, where you can customize your army composition. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but maybe later, since that's a little more involved. Each side, there's the Russians and the US, each has a default deck that's pretty balanced, gives you a little bit of everything. So you can start with those, and then once you kind of figure out what you like, come back here and specialize your force, create your own deck for the game. But we won't get in depth on that here. There's also an editor where you can make scenarios. Other people can make scenarios, you can download those and play them. And again, we'll leave that for later. We're just focused on the basics today. Alright, so that's about enough looking at the menu. Let's see if we can get into a match and actually play a multiplayer match, so we can see what that looks like, what the UI there looks like, and how to win. If we go to multiplayer to the browser here, we can see that there's standard and skirmish matches are most of what you're going to see. Standard is going to be like it says, you're going to be playing other humans. Skirmish, you can play against the AI. And then if you create your own lobby, you can see that you can also pick a scenario if you want to play one of those co-op scenarios with other people, or you can do custom, which is going to look basically the same, except after you select a map, there's this button down here, additional settings. So this is where the custom comes in, and you can play around with income, upkeep, resources, stuff like that. The time limit, you can make the match shorter or longer. So if you want to tweak that, that's how you do it for a multiplayer match. But we are going to find a skirmish map so I can play against with some other people against the AI. I don't want to be playing a real match and messing other people up while I'm talking if they're on player versus player. So we'll find an AI match to jump into real quick. All right, so once you're in an actual match, how do you know if you're winning, losing? What are you trying to do? So there's a bunch of stuff up here at the top of the screen. The game doesn't really do a great job of explaining it all, so I'll just kind of step you through it. Each match is 45 minutes long. It's broken up into 3 phases, 15 minutes each. The difference between the phases is not that you get more units that you can access It's that the points are worth more as the phases go on. So during the first phase, each objective is worth 1 point, then second, 2, third, 3 points. So as the game goes on, it becomes a little higher stakes because you can get a come from behind. If the enemy gets off to a good start, doesn't mean that they're gonna win, because the points in the first round aren't worth as much. Now, how do you know what those objectives are and if you're accomplishing them? So as you can see up here, there's these lines, and then there's 3 objectives on each line. They're broken up into, the top line is conquest, so that's controlling the objective zones. And then the bottom is destruction, which is destroying the enemy measured in the point values of the units that you destroy. So as you conquer more of the objectives on the map, this top line is going to move over. We're not doing too good here. We're playing against the AI, but the AI is putting up a pretty good fight. I'm a newbie along with the other guys here. So we can see that as those points are taken, this first line will fill up, and that the AI has 2 of the conquest objectives. They have 2 points basically, while we aren't quite to 1. And then you can see down at the bottom on the destruction objective, we're actually doing better there. We've caused 7,200 something points of destruction, which has pushed it out to where we have 2 of these skulls. So we've scored 2 of the destruction objectives in this phase, and then there's 1 more potential. So you can focus on a strategy of inflicting casualties on the enemy, or taking the objectives. They both get you an equal amount of overall victory points. Now we see here in the middle, we see the phase there. We're almost through the first phase, and then it says 0-0, so no one's actually scored any points until that phase ends, and then you'll see those points added. And then below that, these markers are for the objective zones of who controls what objective. So we can see right now the AI is kind of kicking our butt. They control most of the objectives. We just control 2, which, not to brag, but they're the 2 that I occupy currently. And then as the battle goes on, if that changes hands, this will shift. So right now we're doing good on destruction points. They're doing good on objective points. But those are different approaches. Ideally, you want to have both. All right, so I think that hits everything up there. And then that'll give you, we'll keep going here. I'll jump to where the phase actually ends so we see the points accumulate. So 1 second. I'm going to try to help my team take a couple objective points. All right, so phase 1 is almost over. Whenever it gets closer, you'll see this pop up to let you know, hey, the phase is going to end. And that's when points actually count or get counted, is when the phase ends. So it might be a hint of, hey, don't take a bunch of losses right now, or do try to push and take some objective to get those points, because after the phase ends, then it doesn't matter again really until the next phase ends. So all it counts is on the phase end who controls the points, who has the kills. And we can see up here we actually have lost some of these destruction points we had, because it's not enough to just destroy the enemy, it's a differential. So we need 1, 2, or 3,000 points more than the enemy, and now they've caught up with us. And so now we're only, well, we were at 1, now we're at 2. So that's nice. We picked it up to 2 destruction points just as the phase ends. Now we see the points get counted, and so we earn 2 victory points. So now the score is 2-1. But like I said, the points don't change. Now if like we lost some objectives, it wouldn't necessarily affect our score immediately, because those points only get counted at the end of the phase. And we can see that even though it seems like we're kind of getting our butts kicked, they control more of the objectives. We're only slightly ahead on destruction. We were ahead when it mattered, when the phase ended right there. So we're actually in the lead overall for the match, even though it's a pretty ugly match. So that's kind of some quirks of the scoring system. Oh, there we go. Well, that'll clear off an objective for you. All right, I'm gonna go try to scoop that up, but now you have a better understanding of how the point scoring, the victory point scoring actually works in a multiplayer match of Broken Arrow. Well, so since we just got our butt handed to us by the AI, maybe we should brush up on some of the mechanics of the game so we have a little better understanding of how to use our units and be a little more effective in battle, and maybe any other tips and tricks I can think of. You can play in the campaign. The first mission is a tutorial. It does kind of step you through a lot of the different unit types and how they work and how to use them. But I'm going to jump into one of the standalone scenarios here as just kind of a playground where we can throw some units on the field against the AI and use them in a little more live action than the tutorial, which is a little slower paced. So here we are in a single player match. So we don't have the UI up here. Instead, we're going to have objectives based on the scenario. One good thing to know about single player is that you can actually pause the game or just slow it down. You can also speed it up if you wanted to. But slowing it down might be nice if you're learning the game or if you're making a video and you're talking about it and you want to be a little more manageable. So we'll leave it slowed down for now. And then you can also just pause it outright if you want to. Now, one thing that the game doesn't explain to you really, I don't think, is calling in units and how all this works. It's kind of self-explanatory. If you've played one of these games before, it's not that hard, but if you haven't, it's a little confusing. And this game actually gives you a little more options than like Warno does as far as bringing units on and how you can configure them, because you can choose different vehicles, how you want them to come on. But basically up here is our points, how many requisition points we have available right now. And then below it is how fast we're gaining more. So right now we're at plus 300, so we're bringing in a lot. But as we bring units on the map, that plus 300 will go down because units have an upkeep cost. So the more units you have on the field, the fewer points you're going to get. So that kind of balances it out. And then if you take heavy casualties, your points will come back faster. I don't think there's a cap on how many points you can have. They just keep coming in. But obviously, if you're not spending your points, they're not doing you any good out there on the field. But that means sometimes if you want to get a really powerful unit, you might have to wait for your points to go up a little bit so you can afford something. The unit cost is, well, let's look at, there's different categories. So there's reconnaissance, infantry, vehicles, support, helicopters, and aircraft. That's planes versus helicopters. And we'll kind of just hit on the big things about each one. But really we're looking at kind of the UI, the mechanics, so you understand what you're doing here. Now under reconnaissance, for example, we can see here force recon, so 3 of 3. That means there's 3 of these available that we could bring on, and each one costs 70 points. And then whenever we highlight each thing, we're going to get their unit card, going over their stats, what kind of weapons they have. I'm not going to go in depth on all of that here for this video, but maybe in a future one we'll look at building out your force and what all that stuff means. Hopefully you have kind of a general idea of what the units are for and what those weapons are, what they might be good for. But if we wanted to bring on some force recon, we could click on it, and then you'll see over here it highlights this as well, because you can pick what kind of vehicle you want them to come in on for your infantry. So they could come in on this truck, or you could change it to have them come in on a helicopter, or you could have them come in on one of the many different APCs. These force recon guys actually have a lot of options, or they can just come in on foot. Normally probably not going to use on foot because they're going to be a lot slower, but if you're in a budget crunch, the vehicles also have a cost up here, and they're also limited in how many are available at any given time. So if you lose all your LAVs, then you can't bring on more infantry later, so you might have to use one of the other vehicles, or you might be stuck going back to just like a truck. And then if you want to bring on more than one squad, let's say we want to bring on all 3 of these guys in those, we just keep clicking and we'll get ×3 there, and then we'll see that 3 vehicles are coming on, each one with a squad, and then we just click somewhere on the map and they'll head there. They don't immediately appear. They're going to come from spawn point, which is going to depend on the map, and then you might have different spawn points for helicopters versus ground. We see, yeah, here we've got a spawn point for our helicopters and then for our aircraft. And then they'll appear there and start making their way to whatever point you selected. Now, if we look back up here on Recon, now we can't call in any more of those because they're insufficient availability. They're all gone, 0 of 3. And then the AAVP, if you look, I can't mouse over to it, but there's only 1 of 4 available for it now. If we switch to the vehicle tab, we can see here the AAVP, there's only 1 of 4 available here because they draw from the same pool. And if we're looking here, we actually see that this screen kind of works in reverse for our APCs. You could come here, instead of selecting which type of infantry you want, you might think, well, I need to bring on my dragoons, and then I'll say, oh, I could also bring in some infantry with them. So it actually kind of works just the reverse of the infantry screen as far as assigning infantry to those APCs. Whereas up here the tanks, though, they're not going to have infantry with them. They're just by themselves because they're tanks. and they're not carrying infantry into battle on them. And then one final point to note on that, as units are used up, you'll see it goes down to like 1 of 2 tanks up here for this first one. If that tank you send in gets destroyed, you'll see like a little circle will start to turn here, and eventually that unit will get restored. So you can never have more than 2 of, say, in this deck, you can never have more of 2 of these Abrams with the trophy system available to you at a time. But if they get destroyed, they do regenerate, but it's really slow. It takes a long time, so you don't want to waste your forces, both because you only have so many points to spend, and because if they get destroyed, it's going to be a while before they come back. If you want to conserve a force, you can actually send units back. Like if you've got a tank that's really beaten up and you don't have a way to get it repaired, you could do return to base or hit B, and then they'll head off the map. And if they make it back to the edge of the map and leave, you'll get those points back, and then also that tank will be available faster for you to purchase and get back on the field. So keeping units alive is useful, and as we saw before, the point differential of how many units have been destroyed is one of the victory conditions. So if you can, say, retreat a really expensive unit or like an aircraft that you've called in, if you can retreat it off the field instead of it getting destroyed, that's going to conserve those points so the enemy doesn't get them, and then you get them back faster. All right, so now I've brought a variety of units on the field to kind of play around with some of their abilities. But one very important thing is to always remember to bring on some supply. So underneath your support tab, you're going to have your trucks here of some variety in your deck. If you hope to win, you'll have some. And you can click on them and see, yes, they can bring on lots of infantry, but really a good best use for your trucks normally is going to be to bring on your supply, because at least in most of the decks I've seen, the default ones, the only unit that can bring on supply is the trucks. You can come here and click supply, and you can keep clicking it to actually bring on more, and you can see the truck gets loaded up, and that's going to be how many supply points it provides. And then we want to bring that on the map, because setting up supply is how your units can rearm, get more ammo for their limited supply of like anti-tank missiles, that kind of thing. It lets your vehicles get repaired, and then for something like your Abrams, which is like this trophy Abrams has got this active protection system that keeps it safe from RPGs. It only has 4 uses, and once those are depleted, they're gone and the system doesn't work anymore. So we want to keep them resupplied with a truck, bringing on supplies onto the map, so we can keep that topped off and keep our very expensive top of the line battle tank in the match and alive. Now, you might already know this, but just to be sure, our supplies aren't going to do anything until we actually unload them on the map. So once your vehicle gets where you want it, you can hit U or click here, unload, or designate a spot, or you can just double tap U and it'll immediately drop off. That goes for like infantry as well, if they're riding in a vehicle. And then if you set up a supply point and then it's under danger or you need to move it up, you can actually use your truck and right click to pick it back up and move it somewhere else if you need to bring some supplies further ahead or they're at risk of being destroyed. And then a circle appears when it's unloaded, and you just have to park a unit in that circle, and they'll start sucking up those points to do all the different things mentioned. You can also set here if you want to share with allies, resupply, if you want to limit this to not sharing with your allies, or to only doing repairs, only providing ammo because there's only so many points there, or healing for your infantry units. So if you want to limit what that supply point is for, you can come in there and select those options to customize it. Whenever you're getting ready to move forward and thinking about how to position your units, obviously terrain matters. Units in the forest are going to be a little more protected. Infantry and buildings are going to be safer. That kind of stuff's pretty obvious. But one thing you want to always be aware of checking is if you hold down Alt, you get the line of sight tool, and you can move the mouse around and see the line of sight from any given point. So this is going to be very important for positioning like your scout units, anti-tank units, getting them in a good spot, like maybe like right here where they can see really far, or on a road where they've got a little more of a keyhole where they're just seeing a limited scope. Like right there, not very good. They can't see across the bridge, versus we said, or back here, they can't see over that. Gives you an idea of what they can see from any given point. So whenever you're trying to position a unit or also protect it from being seen by the enemy, holding out Alt is important. You can also hold down C, and this will give you kind of a overlay so you can see the elevation changes in case you're on a map where that's not always super clear. Just holding down C makes it a little more obvious of where the elevation changes, and that's also going to affect line of sight, of course. And then getting, you know, like a scout unit up high is going to let them see better and further. All right, now I'm not going to actually go into each unit's special abilities. I was thinking about doing that, but the in-game tutorial does explain most of those to you. It gives you a chance to demonstrate them, so you can learn that there. Don't really need me to tell you the same stuff, but I will highlight a few things that I don't think were obvious to me the first time. If we select a unit and look down here, this tank, it has smoke and active protection system. The APS, that's going to automatically fire because that's the whole point of it. But the smoke, that can be set to, you can manually trigger it, or if you see the little green dot here, the unit will automatically use it. If you right click, it changes that green dot to red, and now that means the unit will not automatically use it. So you'll have to manually trigger it by hitting X. You can do the same thing for like aircraft and their decoys. Infantry also have smoke. And so that's something, if you want to be a little more micro heavy, hands-on, or you're trying to conserve those uses, you might want to do it manually there if you want to, or just let the unit use it, and then you can also jump in and fire off some extras as you see fit. One thing you can also do is turn off weapons here. If for some reason, say you wanted to conserve ammo, or you wanted to have one of your tanks like only use its like conserve its high explosive rounds, you could turn that off here, so it's only going to be using its armor piercing rounds, because you want to save the high explosive for some reason, or you don't want it firing its machine gun. It could be a lot of reasons. Probably more likely scenario might be with your infantry. You might want them like turning off their close range weapons, only using their anti-tank weapons, or maybe only using their sniper rifle. Could be a variety of situations where you change that around, so you just click on those to change those there. Alright, and then one final thing to kind of round things out. You can put markers on the map for your AI, for your allies to see. Over here you can see you can place a tension marker, attack marker, defense marker, or supply marker to communicate with your allies without having to type stuff out. You can hit enter to chat. It won't work here since I'm in single player, but you can chat with people, or you put these markers down, and so that they'll see, hey, there's like a target here, or I need supplies here. You can also hit the F keys, F1, 2, 3, 4 to do that. And so that's useful for quick communication with your teammates. And then if you set up control groups, so you can do like control 1, say, and then that'll set up control group here with all of these units selected in it. And then if you have a bunch of units selected, you can tab through them to select them within that group and give them individual orders, or it'll tab all the way back around to selecting all of them. So that can be useful for managing your forces, kind of being a little more organized. Okay, so I think that covers everything I was thinking of to cover for this video. I know I didn't cover like everything. My goal here was to kind of fill in the gaps, the things that the game doesn't tell you necessarily, and that I thought would be useful for helping you get started in the game, especially for multiplayer, where I don't think the game really tells you much at all of like how to win and what the UI is showing you at the top of the screen. But yeah, I hope this was useful for you. If you liked it, make sure you hit subscribe and like, and we'll see you in the future. I'll probably do some more Broken Arrow because I'm having a good time with it, and there's a lot of people playing it, so I want to help them get into the game and have some fun. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.